Hey guys, today on JD Cars we'll be installing wheel spacers. So the reason we're installing wheel spacers today is because they didn't have the wheels I wanted in a wide enough offset, and as you can see they're kind of far inside the fender there, and I'd like to pop them out a bit. Installing the wheel spacers should give it a more aggressive stance. So the first thing you have to do before you even order your wheel spacers is you have to measure to make sure you get the right size for your car and your wheels. To do this you'll need a straight edge about 6 inches larger than the size of your wheel, and you'll also need a ruler, preferably with millimeters so you can be precise. So we're going to take our straight edge and put it against the wheel, which is going to be the widest part of the wheel obviously. So this inside edge of your straight edge here will be the widest part of the wheel. Follow it up and see how close it is to your fender, and using your ruler you can measure exactly how much room you have. Now something important to keep in mind when you're doing this is, depending on your wheels and tires, there is going to be a gap between your straight edge and the tire. As you can see, that's a good 10 to 15 millimeters there. So you're going to want to go ahead, grab your ruler and measure it just to take that into account. So as you can see, I have about 15 millimeters between the straight edge and the top of the tire here, where it theoretically would make contact if the shock was fully compressed. So I'm going to add that 15 millimeters to the distance from the straight edge to the inside lip of my fender here. So from the inside of that straight edge to the inside of my fender, got about 15 millimeters as well. So the maximum size spacer I can put on here is 30 millimeters. Just to be safe and avoid any fender rubbing, I did choose to go with a 25 millimeter spacer, which is 1 inch, just to allow enough room between the tire and the fender. Be sure to repeat this process for both the front and rear because they're going to need differing sizes. So I got 15 millimeter hub-centric spacers for the front, and I got these from Precision European Motorworks on Amazon. They also included the necessary extended lug bolts as well. I purchased these 25 millimeter or 1 inch rear spacers from Uber Technic, and I purchased the extended lug bolts from Precision European Motorworks, also on Amazon. I'll have links for both of these spacers in the description. They're the best deal I could find, and they're really nice milled aluminum. Just a quick note, there are a couple different types of wheel spacers, and I chose to go with this type. These are hub-centric spacers, meaning it has this lip here for the wheel to sit on, and it has this recessed part that sits on the original lip of the car, and this makes sure that everything's in alignment. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and pull off this rear wheel and we can go ahead and install the spacer. Something very important to keep in mind when installing spacers are your lug bolts. So I have the original bolt here, and it has 25 millimeters of threads. This is the new bolt that I ordered, and it has 50 millimeters. To figure out what length extended lug bolt you need, add your original thread length to the size of your spacer, and that will account for the space that you lose when you install the spacer. Before installing your spacer, come to your hub and just test fit your spacer. Make sure that it doesn't wobble back and forth at all, because if it does, you're going to have some issues. Then come to the inside of your wheel and do the same thing, and just make sure that there's no room for it to wobble back and forth. If both of those check out okay, bring your spacer over to the car, line up your holes nicely with the threads. We can now bring the wheel back over. You're going to want to be careful not to move the spacer too much, so carefully lift your wheel up and place it onto the spacer. Again, make sure your holes are lined up nicely with the threads. Now take your lug bolts and hand thread them in a couple of turns just to make sure you don't cross thread it with your gun. Now tighten and torque your lug bolts to your car's specifications. Wow, that looks a lot better. I lined up the camera with the side of the car here, and you can see that the wheel is almost perfectly flush with the side of the car, which is exactly what I was going for. I'm going to go ahead and repeat the same process with the front spacer, then I'll give you some comparison shots of the other side of the car without spacers versus this side of the car with spacers. Alright, we've got both the rear and front spacers on, and I'm really happy with how it looks. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'd really appreciate it if you could leave a like below and subscribe if you've yet to do so. Thanks. I'll see you next time on JD Cars.